if deconstruction doesn't have the aim of reconstruction, it becomes destruction. And that's 100% true. That's what happens when we idolize authenticity. And I'm just going to deconstruct everything that I don't believe true because I just want to be true to myself and everything over truth. I believe that we can be both. We can be authentic and we can value truth. That's actually the mixture of a natty faith. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Andrew Roman Show. I'm so happy that you've tuned in. I feel like I give the same intro every single episode, but that's, you know what? That's okay, because I promise this is in fact a new episode. It's a new Monday, which means new content. And I want to tell you, if you are not yet following us at the Andrew Roman Show on Instagram, you have to, because our announcement got a little bit delayed. We were going to have a really cool announcement last week, and we were just kind of working on in the background here. But we have a really, really cool project that we're announcing here at the Andrew Roman Show. It's just going to be awesome. Just be on the lookout for that. Follow the Andrew Roman Show on Instagram. Also, do all the good stuff. Subscribe, follow on Spotify and your favorite platform and everything. Today I'm pumped because it's gonna be a very honest conversation. That's right. Today we're gonna have an honest convo. I don't know if you're somewhat of what they would call a gym rat. I'm not, as you can clearly see. I'm not a gym rat, although I like going to the gym, and like everybody wishes that they had a little bit more of a disciplined life to go to the gym. But recently I was talking with a friend at church a couple weeks back who has a very disciplined life of going to the gym. And he has been going almost every single day. One day a week, he takes a break for about a year now. So wow, congrats, man. If you're listening, Martin, bro, I'm talking about you. And we were talking about exercise in the gym and everything, and I brought up a term that I found very interesting in a video, and that was the term natty. Have you heard the word natty before? Okay, if you're not in the workout world, probably you haven't, because I just watched it when I saw a TikTok of someone interviewing people at the gym and just asking them, "Hey, bro, you natty? Hey, bro, you natty?" And what that means is natty is someone who is natural, meaning if you look up literally the definition of natty is someone whose muscle gains are natural and are not aided by the use of steroids. So I'm like, oh man, that's really interesting. So we were talking about, hey, obviously if you're exercising, you always want to stay natty, because steroids, if I understand steroids correctly, they basically fill up your muscles with water, or at least that's one of them. And of course, steroids are more complicated than that. But not only are they illegal, but there are huge negative repercussions when using steroids. And you might be thinking, okay, well, this is interesting. I never knew that Andrew was a health coach. I am not, in fact, a health coach, because this is not too much about your gym life that we're going to be talking about. The thought that came to mind, and we're going to be working kind of this topic, and we're going to squeeze the most juice out of this lemon as possible, is the idea of being natty in your faith. Interesting. Because natty means that the gains that you make, the muscle gains, the strength that you've gained is gained by a natural process, is not aided by the use of steroids. Because ultimately steroids, although it says it helps you gain strength faster, it's not really as much strength. It's more on the outside than it is on the inside. That's probably the best way to put it. And I thought, how many times do many people, and I can conclude myself, pretend that I'm a bit stronger spiritually than I really am? Oof, this is about to go deep. I hope you're ready. If you're not ready for this, you can click out and you can go listen to another podcast. But I want to really bring this home. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, Paul gives us a really kind of nice illustration here of using physical training as we're talking about the gym. And this is what he says. He says, have nothing to do with godless myths and old wives' tales, rather train yourself to be godly. So there's the word train. For physical training is of some value. So there you go. Go to the gym. That's of some value. But godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present and the life to come. So here's Paul kind of giving us the idea of physical training and spiritual training, because a lot of us understand the way physical training works, and it is a great metaphor. This is why he's using it for spiritual training. So that's why in this episode, we're going to be using that illustration of being natty, meaning being natural, growing your faith in a natural way. That way you build resilience. You actually build real strength, and you're not just puffed up, but you're just full of water. You don't have legitimate gains, because being natty takes time. Anybody in the gym will understand that. Being natty means being disciplined, being patient. It takes focusing on certain muscles. It means taking the harder path. It means sometimes not looking as strong as you want to look at that moment because you're genuinely not there. And I think that is the focus that we should have, especially when it comes to our faith. Having natty faith, and we're going to be describing this as we go along as well, but having a faith that actually is genuine, it is authentic. We're not going to fake it. We're not going to pretend we're stronger than we really are, that we have a deeper relationship with God than we actually have, that we know and understand the Bible more than we actually understand, that we're living godly more than we actually are living godly. We're not going to do that. Being natty takes time. It's a process. It takes discipline. It takes patience. It takes focusing on maybe certain areas of your life that are not in line with the Word of God, is not actually godly. And instead of putting those in the background and just injecting yourself with spiritual steroids, which we're going to actually talk about today, I know we're going to be using this illustration to its full extent today. Many of us just rather use spiritual steroids and look stronger than we really are, rather than take the time and walk the process of having a natty faith. Because having a natty faith takes time. And here's where I think we've fallen a little bit into a lie, because culture admires authenticity. Authenticity is a very good thing. The problem with culture, and I mentioned this in the last episode, is that it admires authenticity over truth. Meaning for culture, they don't care what's true or what's not true. As long as you genuinely believe what you believe, then good for you, bub. You do you, boo. And that's about it. Culture admires authenticity. But the problem is it admires authenticity, but it completely dismisses truth. So what becomes is authenticity really just becomes toxic, because it becomes almost like a endless loop around yourself, that there is no end goal for you. Because you just are who you are, right? That authenticity becomes an excuse and the handicap to not actually recognize the wrong areas of your life. Because, hey, that's just who you are. I'm just being authentic. Oh, I know I have a bit of an attitude, but hey, I'm just being authentic. That's it. Oh, I know. I understand. Maybe I'm mean and I'm a little petty, but hey, I'm just being authentic. No big deal, right? So that's kind of where it goes down the drain, this idea of authenticity. But on the other hand, when it comes to our faith and our Christian walk, especially in church, sometimes we can be so focused about saying the right things and in knowing the truth per se, that we don't actually stop and honestly ask ourselves if we truly believe what we say, if we're being authentic. So here's culture at just completely idolizing authenticity over truth. And then there's parts in church and parts of kind of religion that focus so much on just saying truth, as to put it that way, or saying the right things, that we don't take the time to see if people are truly authentic about what they believe. So then the moment that our youth or our young adults, or maybe this happened to you, you said all the right things at church because that's what you were meant to say. But the moment you were finally not at church and you were old enough to make your own decisions, I can finally be myself. I didn't want to go to church anyways. I don't really believe this. I have questions of my own. And being authentic, it means kind of like, you know what? I'm not going to fake it, right? I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm not going to pretend to know something I don't. So that's why I'm just going to leave this whole Christianity altogether, and I'm just going to be myself, and I'm going to search my own truth. That's an element, not entirely everything, but that's an element of deconstruction, of deconstructing your faith, is because there's such an idolizing of authenticity, but we disregard truth completely. Because I heard this on the different podcasts. It was so good by Tim Ross. And I believe it was a guest speaker that he had at his church, Embassy Church, where they talk about deconstruction. He was saying, if deconstruction doesn't have the aim of reconstruction, it becomes destruction. And that's 100% true. That's what happens when we idolize authenticity. And I'm just going to deconstruct everything that I don't believe true because I just want to be true to myself and everything over truth. I believe that we can be both. We can be authentic and we can value truth. That's actually the mixture of a natty faith. A natty faith is authentic. A natty faith, well, is natural. It's not going to fake it, but it's also its focus, its anchor is on the truth itself. Maybe you haven't noticed, but the Bible is full of questions. The Bible is full of people who just doubt it, to be honest with you. People who are like, God, there are people full of faith, but even those people full of faith, there were times when they doubted and they sinned as well. The Bible is full of questions. The Bible shows us quite graphically and many times what it means to have a natty faith, what it looks like. What it looks like to believe in God, to know that God is good, but still have your questions, still wrestle with God. I know you're good, but why did this happen? Have you ever asked yourself that question? God, I know this about you, but at the same time, this bad thing, someone hurt me, this thing that happened that I had nothing to do with, now it's affecting me, it's hurting me, it's ruining my plans, it's ruining things that I wanted to do, but I know you're good, so how does this mixture work? And a lot of people's reactions to doubt is to completely leave the faith, to give it up, because they think that doubt and faith are just oxymorons. You just can't have them, right? So, hey, you know what? I'm just going to be authentic in my doubt. That's kind of what ends up happening in our generation. We say, okay, well, if I'm going to be authentic, I don't really know what I believe, but I know I'm authentically doubting, right? And we kind of land on that side. But the Bible shows us what natty faith looks like. And this is where I absolutely love the Psalms. Have you taken the time to read the Psalms? Talk about natty faith. Talk about a faith that's genuine and that wrestles with questions. That's not afraid of, you know what? I don't get it. Just saying, throwing up your hands and saying, I don't get this, God. But there's always a response to that. It's always like, I don't get this, but I still trust you, right? Like think about the Old Testament prophets. The Old Testament prophets were full of, their writings were full of God's prophecies, but also sometimes they're wrestling with God of trying to understand how his involvement worked in mankind. People like Hosea, people like Joel and Amos. Amos is a great, read the prophecies of Amos in the book of Amos. It leaves you just starstruck with Amos's sometimes questions about God saying, here's the evil. How long, Lord, will you wait to do justice, right? But what's interesting about their natty faith is they're authentic in truth. They know for a fact God exists. So none of this is doubting God's existence. It's just trying to understand how his involvement works. It's just trying to understand him. Not saying, oh, I can't understand it, thus God doesn't exist. No, that's not natty faith. Natty faith works through the questions, but it's anchored in truth. Let me show you an example of a raw and authentic psalm that I just want to bring it up to you here. Because talk about, I think even this psalm might get people uncomfortable to read in the Bible. Of course, you understand this historical context, you understand the context of the psalm and everything, but it's kind of some deep and raw questions. Psalm 13 starts off with, Lord, I'm so happy, and Lord, I'm just so pleased and super patient. Just take your time with whatever you're doing. No. David kind of puts it out there. He's like, how long, oh Lord? Will you forget me forever? Whoa, those are deep questions. How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death, lest my enemy say, I have prevailed over him, lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken. But, oh my gosh, if I can preach for a second. I love this psalm because this psalm doesn't actually speak truth about God, but it speaks truth about the human experience. So when David here is saying, how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? That doesn't actually mean that God actually forgets you forever. No, that is just a human experience that with our timing, sometimes it feels like God is late, although he never is. Have you ever felt like David in this moment where you're like, Lord, how long? Like you've told me these things are happening in my life. How long till this stops? How long must I go taking counsel in my soul and having sorrow in my heart all the day? This is a raw emotion. And this is what I love, that God's like, yeah, this is inspired. What? Wait. You mean like being authentic is something that you want, God? Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like how God likes it. God likes it authentic. He wants you to be genuine because he wants you to be natty. He wants your faith to be legitly strong. He wants your relationship with him to literally be strong, not to be fake, filled with water, that you look strong and you talk strong, but you don't have that strength and that resilience. I love that he asks these questions like legit. And then after everything, he doesn't stay there and say, well, life sucks. This is all over. No. He goes, but I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. Oh my goodness. Yo, I actually didn't plan to really talk so much about this verse, but maybe there's someone that has to be encouraged right now. You feel like David. Maybe your faith really hasn't been natty. You've been putting up a front. You've been kind of puffed up a little bit. But in reality, you're like, David, Lord, how long? How long will this happen to me? How long is this going to happen in my life, this situation? How long till I see your answer, God? Can I encourage you not to stay in that place? It is fair and okay for you to ask those questions. It is fair and okay for you to wrestle with that question and bring that up to God. But I love how David asks his questions towards God, because he doesn't go and just ask other people necessarily, say, man, how long do you think God's going to take? Well, I don't know. And just complain to other people. No, he brings his requests to God. He brings his worries and anxieties to God. But don't stay there. He says, but I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. He's saying, I know this sucks and this is terrible. And this is like, there's a reason to be maybe depressed. There's a reason for all this, to be anxious, but I'm making a choice to rejoice. I'm making a choice to rejoice in the salvation that I have, and then also to remember. I like how David ends the psalm with almost like a signature here of putting things into perspective. He's saying, yes, this is so hard, but at the same time, I can sing to the Lord because he has dealt with me bountifully. And another version says that he has been so good to me. So maybe someone needs a reminder that I know things are not easy right now. But God has been has dealt so bountifully. It has been so good to you. He will continue to be good to you. And yes, he will respond. But it is okay. It's part of having a natty faith to ask these questions. Think about the heroes of the faith, the hall of faith, as they say in Hebrews 11. Go read it yourself. This is hall of faith. And you're talking about people that were very, very imperfect, in that for many of them, think about Gideon. Gideon over here asked God for 3 signs until he actually believed that he was called. He's like, I know an angel appeared in front of me, but I need a sign. You're like, what? Isn't an angel a sign? No, here's my fleece. Okay, I know you answered my fleece whole situation, but let's do it again. Yeah, talk about someone who has some trust issues with God, dude. But he's in the hall of faith, right? Why? Because he was natty. He worked through those things, and you read what Gideon ended up doing, something amazing for God. But why? Because he didn't just go, God, I don't believe that you're calling me. Bye. No, he said, I'm having trouble believing it, but I'm willing to test it. I'm willing to try it out. I'm willing to be natty. I'm willing to do the hard work of working out my faith. Having natty faith means living authentically in truth, being honest about your questions, being honest about the doubts that you have, in working through them, pressing deep into God. Philippians 2:12, Paul says, therefore, my dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but also continue to work out your salvation. That's the way I see Natty Faith does. It just works out your salvation. What does it mean to be saved? What does it mean in my daily life to be saved, to be a child of God? I'm going to go through this hard work and I'm going to start looking at every area of my life and saying, okay, I'm struggling in this area and I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to put a steroid in there. I'm not going to suppress my questions. I'm not going to suppress my doubts, because can I be honest with you? Suppressing your questions in playing church is steroid faith. That's right. Memorizing scripture but not living it, that's steroid faith. Going to youth group but not having your own devotional life with God is steroid faith. It's okay to wrestle with your faith. It's okay to have questions. There's not a Christian in the world who has all the answers. We have questions, but God has the answers. I heard a quote once that said, it actually came from a rap song from Andy Mineo. He said, the opposite of faith is in doubt. The opposite of faith is when you have it all figured out. I want to kind of ask you, we're going to end this episode and we're going to really focus on one key element of Natty Faith versus steroid faith. But I want to ask you, what in your life, or how have you been faking it? Maybe, as we're going to talk right now, you've been faking it. You've been putting on a smile. Your youth group leader tells you, hey, man, how you doing? Like, really, how are you? No, I'm good, man. I'm good. How are they supposed to help you? When your family, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your siblings, your friends, your close friends, they ask you, how are you? And how's your walk with God? And you say, man, good, thank you. Are you faking it? If you're not, awesome. But have the freedom to work out those doubts, to work out those questions, to work out the struggles, to work out how to live as a believer. God has given us so much guidance and answers. And here's one of the ways that distinguishes Natty Faith versus, let's call it steroid faith. This is in 1 Corinthians 13, because one of the elements of Natty Faith is love. That's like one of the key elements of having Natty Faith. In 1 Corinthians 13, it starts off with Paul giving comparisons here. He says, examples. If I speak in the tongues of men, dude, that's my dream, is to learn every language in the world. Or of angels, so here we go, that's a whole nother level. But do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Let's translate that. If you speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but you don't have love, bro, that's steroid faith. That ain't natty. That's not actually a natural faith. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all the mysteries and knowledge, if I have the faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. Talk about steroids for your faith, right? Because when we have the gift of prophecy, listen up. I got a word from the Lord. Don't question me. I got a word from the Lord. Oh, God has revealed to me with a spirit of revelation all this knowledge and these mysteries of Scripture. Oh, I can pray and people will be healed. Man, if you don't have love, my friend, all those become steroids. They make you bigger than you really are. They make you look stronger than you really are. But Natty Faith is love. If I give all my possessions to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Your possessions, your giftings, your abilities, without love, they're just steroids to your faith. You and I have to have a natty faith. A natty faith is one that works through the process of learning how to love people so then God can utilize the abilities you have. He can utilize the giftings that He has given you. You can utilize the money that He has made you a steward of. That's how natty faith works. But if you take away the natural element of a genuine relationship with God, which is love, and you try to use all this to make yourself look stronger, Whatever it is, maybe it's just serving at church. Maybe it's just having a podcast, but not actually investing in your personal relationship with God. I promise I'm not talking about myself. Because, I got to tell you about something I've been doing, man, to really invest in my devotion to time with God. It's called the Pause app. Oh my gosh. I'll share more about that. The verses continue. Here is Natty Faith. You want a Natty Faith. You want to live a natty life with God. This is it. It's love. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes, and it always perseveres. That is Natty Faith. Because if it always trusts, when you trust someone, that means there is some uncertainty. There's some uncertainty. That person knows something that you don't, or that person can do something that you can't. Many times, that's God in our life. Natty Faith is going through the unknown and the uncertainty, but you always trust God. Natty Faith always hopes. When you hope is because you had the choice to be desperate and to be in despair. When you persevere, it's because there are obstacles to persevere through. That is Natty Faith, my friends. Interestingly, the things that can work as steroids to our faith, if we're not careful, that will actually be our own detriment. That will actually be our own destruction if we're not careful. It's interesting that bodybuilding.com talks about steroids in this way. This is what it says. Steroids may seem to be the best and easiest way to enhance your body, but they only work for so long. Once the side effects start surfacing, the user will have trouble exercising and may not even be able to exercise. Therefore, everything that they have worked for will go down the drain. I hope you caught maybe some applications to this. Steroids, let's talk about it. Serving at church. Prophetic gifts, any really gifting, abilities you have, possessions that you have, talents that you have, desires that you have, all these can work as steroids, and they may seem to be the best way and the easiest way to enhance your faith. And by your faith, I mean your spiritual walk with God, right? Let's just go straight into giftings. Let's just say, oh my goodness, I don't really know anything, but I got prophetic words, baby. That's it. And that's all I need. Again, this is nothing to talk bad about prophetic gifts or anything like that. I'm a 100% proponent of it. But if they don't have love, they just work as steroids. And I love this about steroids. They only work for so long. They only work for so long. Because if you have talent, giftings, abilities, those will only take you so far without the character and love. I know. Before you know it, you end up falling hard. There are so many pastors, as an example, that have fallen, whether it's infidelity, whether it's character problems, whether it's mismanaging money, etc. Because a lot of times accomplishments, giftings, abilities, and talents only work as steroids when we take away our personal devotion to God and our love and character. So these steroids only work for so long. But once the side effects start surfacing, the side effects of not having love, the side effects of not actually having character, then the user will have trouble exercise. Oh my gosh, sorry. I hope I'm communicating this. Let's take this as an example. Once the side effects of not having character and not loving people start surfacing, the person, you yourself, will have trouble exercising your faith. And you may not even be able to do it to begin with. Oh my gosh. We got to go like episode 2 on this thing because this is just so good. Therefore, everything that you have worked for will go down the drain. Wow. I can think of several ministries that went down the drain because of spiritual steroids. Wow. Sorry, that was just like insane. As we said, accomplishments, giftings, abilities, talents, money, knowledge will only work for so long without love, without character, without your devotion to God. When disconnected from the natural process, these things can actually hinder you from having a genuine faith and relationship with God. These can be a result of strength, right? It's like all these muscles. They're all these accomplishments and giftings. They're all like all these muscles. But if you don't have something to back them up with, they're just backed up by water, by nothing. But with Natty Faith, on the other hand, God co-labors with you. In the process, you learn how to use your spiritual gifts incorrectly, how to manage money. So my challenge to you is this: refuse to be fake. Refuse spiritual and natural steroids. Be natty. Live authentically in truth. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, share this with a friend. This just got so deep, man. We're going to find a way to talk even more about this. But we'll see you in the next episode of The Andrew Ramon Show. Y'all have an amazing week. We'll see you.